right, it is the Business of Social podcast powered by STN Digital. I'm your host, David Brickley. Producer Will also here on the line. We are a special self-quarantine episode. I guess this is our new reality. Producer Will, how you feeling? Feeling healthy?
I'm feeling healthy, yeah. I'm actually currently in the office grabbing a file and talking to you.
You and I are 6 feet away from each other at the very least.
Yeah, practicing safe social distancing.
Social distancing. Just for context, we're recording this on Monday, March 16th. And man, what a crazy, crazy is probably the wrong term, but it all really broke down Wednesday evening. I think when it became real for everybody, the travel ban by President Trump for Europe. And then we had Adam Silver in the NBA suspend the NBA season. And then, Will, you know more than anybody, just the cascading events of cancellations and postponements and the March Madness tournament. And through the weekend, we have public gatherings and bars closing, and we're pretty much going into quarantine lockdown here in the United States. And what a difference. Just 7 days ago, we were all in the office and just kind of, is this thing even really a legitimate issue? Is it just like the flu? And here we are, and it's affecting a lot of our listeners. It's affecting a lot of our friends and family, and here we are.
Yeah, I think Thursday was the day when it was like the NBA game got canceled Wednesday night, and then it was March Madness, it was Coachella, it was any event that's been on the books just got canceled in like a 3-hour window. And like you said, it's affected everybody. Every industry is taking a hit somehow.
Yeah, and I think we may look back at this moment, though, in time and almost thank Rudy Gobert and thank Adam Silver because, once even, the travel ban was one thing, but once the NBA suspended its season, as silly as it may sound, that's when I think the whole country, especially March Madness. March Madness is such an event that every human, I think, is a part of, whether it be as an alum, as a huge basketball fan, or as just someone that participates in their office pool. March Madness is a huge part of our society. Right. And once that was canceled completely, I think everybody said, okay, what is going on? Like, this is obviously unprecedented, something we've never seen before. But I think once we get past all this and we look back at it, it may have been the most safe, amazing thing that could have happened and hopefully caused this thing, as everybody's saying, to kind of flatten the curve and not turn into an absolute chaotic pandemic.
Well, the cancellation was the NBA was just suspended, so we'll see. Take a couple weeks, and
right.
Then it was like boom, March Madness is over, conference tournaments are over, and It's a huge thing for any office culture. It's always fun to watch all the games, and now everything is just canceled. So there's nothing you could do.
So the reason we wanted to get a show out and get it out as soon as possible, Will and I talked a lot, and I think we have to, at the end of the day, focus on what's next and what now, right? And there's a couple different ways you can approach this, like I've been saying, in a couple different platforms. But we can curl up in a ball and feel sorry for ourselves and be paralyzed by this moment, or we can say, okay, this sucks, this is not cool, this is not fun. However, how are we going to attack it? And I think everybody listening right now to this show, and we thank you so much if you listened to previous episodes as well. We're all, really ahead of these brands. And I think, we owe it to our audiences. We owe it to our followers to give them some escapism right now, to give them some positivity, to get them something outside of the depressing news, believe it or not. And Will, I'm sure you've gotten to this rabbit hole, whether it's, scrolling on Twitter or watching CNN. You watch that for 4 or 5 hours, you start to feel pretty down and pretty dark about yourself. And I think it's going to be interesting now to see what brands and sports teams and really anybody with a voice, what they now do in order to kind of serve the public at large, because I think it's really important now for us to provide conversation outside of closures and coronavirus, updates on how many people are affected.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you, like talking to some industry people, what is everyone saying? What's kind of obviously you can't prepare for something like this and it's never happened before, but what's kind of the go-to strategy for at least the short term?
Yeah, I think, and listen, I think, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was just, I'm sure the most surreal time for people's careers, period. And then you go through the weekend and you start seeing school closures and people are trying to figure out what to do with their kids, and offices are closing down, and how am I going to set up my home network? And my staff is now all of a sudden 100% remote. How can I motivate them and stay in touch with them? So there was a lot of I think, confusion and a lot of surrealism. But now as we enter a new week, and now that we're talking here, Will, on a Monday, again, I think now people are going to start, we're going to go a little stir crazy, right? Unless we start having some challenges and some things that we can attack in a positive way. So like I said, I think my mind, and I think a lot of my colleagues' mind goes to, we have a duty as heads of these brands to say, okay, this is what's happening, but my audience and my followers, they're waiting for updates. They're waiting for just engaging content that they can sink their teeth into, because I think, again, that escapism, that positivity, anything to kind of take our mind off of, what is just dominating the headlines will be, I think, very therapeutic for a lot of people. And I take that seriously. And I think all of us that oversee brands should take it extremely seriously. I think you can honestly, potentially help somebody out of a depression right now by simply having a great content strategy and being able to serve the audience and put a smile on their face. So I think it's extremely important. And that's what I'm starting to hear as we get into a new week. And I think Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, people are going to start having meetings and start really thinking about, okay, how do we now serve our audience?
Yeah, I've seen some brands obviously just go dark. Some brands do like the corporate email update. I saw some who were just like, hey, we're not sure what to do. Send us a picture of your dog, which, like you said, I think people appreciate any kind of just fun escape from reality. Nice leaf blower outside. Really helpful. Yeah, I guess if you're a brand, you obviously want to be careful and mindful of the situation. But yeah, what can you do for the people that rely on you for content or updates, or to kind of get them away from reality?
Yeah, I think you have to tread cautiously. I think you have to be super sensitive and not be tone deaf to this entire situation. However, if I follow a sports team or I follow a TV network, I know ESPN is thinking about releasing that Michael Jordan documentary or that Chicago Bulls documentary.
I pray that they
please. But see how that puts a smile on our face, and I think that's important. I think look at this big picture from like a society standpoint, or being a U.S. citizen that's a little scared, a little anxious right now. ESPN dropping the Chicago Bulls documentary, a 6-part series, I think it is, could really help people through this time. It sounds silly in a way. It's just a documentary. It's a piece of content, but that would put a smile on a lot of people's faces. And you see some different motion picture production companies maybe releasing some movies, video on demand, instead of releasing it wide in the theaters, and that may provide that escapism we're talking about. So these are the type of things I think, from an innovation standpoint, from a pre-release standpoint, you're going to start to see. Because there's a lot of people that are in their homes right now, and they're quarantined, if you will, or at least they're homebound for the time being, and they're kind of lacking that physical touch. They're lacking that public interaction, and I think you'll be amazed by fast forwarding content or getting content in the hands of people. I think how therapeutic that actually can be.
I think something that I take for granted too is just being able to go on Twitter and have that kind of community. And people are cracking jokes, people are giving updates. Like I saw everyone was like, "Well, there's no sports on. I just realized my TV is black when it's off. It's never been off before." And I thought it was cool that everyone can at least come together. Like, all right, we have no sports. So, like, Wob did a live stream of the 2016 Finals Game 7. Other people got on Twitch. So it was cool to see the community kind of come together. Like, all right, we have nothing to rally around. So what can we make to kind of give people a place to go?
Yeah, and that's where I think we'll start to see the innovation. And that's where STN, with our clients, we're really digging in right now of where we can really provide that for the fan base, right? And maybe for the Packers, it's a Aaron Rodgers versus Devontae Adams Madden Twitch live stream with Packers trivia. Right. For fans, they answer every time there's a huddle or there's like a break in action, and that's an idea as I talk out loud. But those are things I think we're going to start seeing. And listen, let's look at different industries that are actually going to increase during this entire pandemic, and that's Netflix, that's streaming, that's esports, that's Twitch, that's Postmates, grocery stores and delivery services, and even restaurants right now that are being shut down. They're now forced to do only 100% delivery, and now they need to make sure that their infrastructure is in place to be able to handle that type of situation. So that's where I think people's focus now goes to is, although there's majority of industries are hit really, really hard right now, there are industries that are going, TV ratings will skyrocket, streaming will skyrocket, social consumption will skyrocket, Twitch streams will skyrocket. So knowing that, okay, let's look at that as there's a lot of negatives right now. We get it. There's a lot of stuff that we can go over and take 3 hours on a podcast. But if those things I just mentioned are some of the positives, some of the increases that we'll see, how as brands can we be a part of those conversations and allow our audiences to take part in that? And like you mentioned, these folks that are having live streams and commentary over old sports games, again, that provides an outlet for people that they so desperately need. And I think it's a pretty cool thing people are starting to innovate around.
So if you're like in charge of a brand, Netflix, whatever, for example, is now the time to like kind of experiment with your TikTok or just kind of inform people who might be new to Netflix who are like, hey, I'm at home, I have nothing to do, I need something to stream. What would be like your overall strategy guide?
I think the strategy doesn't change. Will, I'm always big, and I kind of scream from the mountaintops, being genuine to your audience and putting yourself in the shoes of the fan or the follower or the brand loyalist. And what is let's look at a sports team, for instance. What is, as a Laker fan, Will, what do you want right now? And I think the answer probably would be you want fresh content. You want stuff you can sink your teeth into. You want highlights. You want to be able to look at, let's look at a 2010 Game 7 of the Lakers, or let's look at all the different things LeBron and AD has done so far and what we can look forward to when the season, returns. And I think that's for any brand. You can put yourself in the shoes of the fan. And again, as ESPN brand loyalists, we want that gosh darn Chicago Bulls documentary. So let's drop that puppy early if it's already on ice. Again, you have no more eyeballs than you ever will than right now. So why wait in a sense? So that's how I look at it. I don't think it's some amazing strategy. I don't think it's some innovative first time thing. I think ultimately you look at your fan base, you look at where they currently sit and what they're going through and try to serve them as best you can.
Yeah, and I think the industry is super creative, so it's like you either go back to your old footage and try to do something new with that, or go to uncharted territory. Like the Suns said they're going to Twitch stream the rest of their schedule in NBA 2K, which I give them a lot of credit. That's a great idea,
right.
And people want to see stuff like that because there's nothing else to do. So I think all those kinds of ideas are going to start trickling out this week, especially.
Yeah, I also heard some rumors that rugby is still going on in Australia. That hasn't been affected. So ESPN may look to buy those rights ASAP, because ESPN right now is playing high school highlights and senior night and old stuff.
I saw the 2003 McDonald's All-Star Game slam dunk contest was on there the other day.
I mean, the only good news, ESPN has those historical highlights, right, from a sports standpoint. Right. But, TV networks as well, I think, there's been a lot of postponement on production right now, which, hopefully for the next week or so, that's smart. But I really would implore TV networks, if you can. I know Fox Sports stopped some of their live, like Colin Cowherd and, Skip and Shannon. But as soon as you can get back in there and keep your social distance and keep things sanitized and be safe, obviously. But as soon as you can get back in there, I think the better, because, again, the TV networks and Nielsen ratings will skyrocket. There's going to be a lot more people. My TV's been on more than it has in the last week, no doubt. And I think if you understand that you can provide that content for the viewers, you're going to be in a good spot. So I think now's the time to maybe, like we talked about, do you early release one of your, Ozark on Netflix is supposed to come out, I think, on the 23rd. Do you release that tomorrow? When it comes to some of these TV networks, if you have anything in the can in terms of game shows or new releases, do you release it now? Again, it's kind of serving the audience, but also, again, you'll probably have no more eyeballs than you currently do in the United States as a whole than all these humans that are now working from home. So I think it's going to be something that you kind of adjust strategy based on the current times. And again, being sensitive and not being tone deaf and not saying the word capitalize, because I think that's disingenuous and not fair to say. But with the current climate, what can we do to adjust?
I think I'll pivot to, I guess I'll say, Bricks, you're a pretty high energy guy, and I'm assuming you're going a little bit stir crazy in there. So what have you been doing outside of work? Are you just busting out push-ups and you've been cleaning the place, or what have you been doing to keep yourself busy?
The gyms are closing now, right? So I think it's another industry, right? The online workouts and the YouTube follow. I had to break out my P90X DVDs here shortly.
You still got those, huh?
I don't have any weights though, so it's gonna have to be all body weight exercises, right? Which is it's so interesting. Like I was talking to somebody recently, even like with 9/11, right? We had the Yankees and play a week later, I think it was, and George W. throw out the first pitch, and that kind of like made us as a nation come together and feel like we will get through this as a country. But this thing, man, I mean, it's it's worldwide. So you can't even fly to Europe and get away from it. Like it's literally everywhere. So I mean, there's nothing any business or company or brand could have done to prepare for what we're currently going through. But yeah, I think, listen, from a work from home standpoint, I've kind of implored our team, as you know, Will, can we put together kind of a work from home kit for our clients and for our colleagues? Something as simple as making sure you get up and take a shower and put your work clothes on and put your shoes on and have a place to, because if not, if you're in your pajamas, sitting on the couch, you're not going to be as productive. You're going to feel lazy. You might feel somewhat depressed during this whole situation. So little things like that, I think, and remind yourself to take a walk outside or taking breaks. I'm not the best person probably to give the best advice on work from home. Maybe you have some tips, Will, that I'm sure the audience would appreciate. But yeah, I think it's time now to kind of all those things are on the table.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in like those little things of take a shower, put on some clothes that aren't pajamas, because it'll at least make you feel that you're doing some work or you need to be working in the current time.
I will say my Nike hoodies are a staple of my wardrobe no matter what happens. So this is not me wearing a sweatsuit at home.
I'm proudly rocking the STN Go today.
Yeah,
not a coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all that kind of stuff is great. I like to have like a set time where I know I'm going to take a break, like at 11 o'clock. I'm going to take my dog for a walk, so I'm going to work for 3.5 hours, crank out, and then I know at 11 o'clock I'm going to take a quick break, 20 minutes, walk the dog or make some lunch or do whatever. I think those are a really helpful way to kind of like set a break for yourself.
Yeah, calendar blocking. I think, like we mentioned early on in the show too, like now is not the time to cancel meetings and conversations and relationships. I think now's the time to lean into that, right? Like, whether we need to pause for a week and kind of figure out as brands what we're going to do, that's fine. But I do think, again, I don't think we need to run away from this scenario. We need to run towards it and say, okay, this is what it is. What are our options? What are our options as brands? And even STN, like, what are our options? Okay, we're going to be working from home. How can we serve our clients better? We're going to, send out ideas and different ways that our clients can serve their audiences during this weird time, right? This odd or unique time. And that's how we choose to, feel impactful and provide a service during this very, like I said, unique time. So I think that's important too, right? To not just like kill all meetings and not do anything for the next few days. I think you still need to keep those on your calendar. And like you said, whether it's talking to your colleague or having a one-on-one or talking with your clients, things like that, I think that's super important.
Yeah, and I think everyone is kind of starved for like some human interaction. You take for granted being in an office with people every day, and next thing you know, you're by yourself for 3.5 days, and you're like, "What the hell am I doing here?"
Even with this podcast, right? Like we talked during the weekend. Let's say let's do this on Monday. And listen, we don't have millions and millions of listeners. We're not Joe Rogan by any stretch of the imagination, but we do have some loyal listeners, and this can just continue to be that normalcy. There's people that listen to our show every week, and this is part of their routine. And what I don't want to do is go away for 4 weeks and right. Make this thing even more unnormal or uneasy. So this is our way of hopefully helping the situation and putting more normalcy into people's day in a very, very small way, as a sliver of sorts. But yeah, stuff's important.
I mean, hey, look, I made a list of stuff I need to do around. Like, I hung up a couple pictures yesterday. I got rid of some old clothes, a couple books I've been meaning to read. So all this kind of stuff, especially no sports, I feel like it's a great time to like learn something new, learn about investing or whatever you want to do, clean up the house a little bit. There's ways to occupy yourself.
And two, it's like, I heard from a colleague in the space, like, how do you not only survive, but how do you thrive during this situation? And
yeah,
I think
definitely.
There's going to be articles and books written about this time in history and how people and brands did the right thing and became super innovative and started a new app or started a new hashtag or trend or, one thing I'll throw out there, and this is something that we'll share with our clients, but there's going to be a couple athletes that become the face of this entire situation in a good way. Whether it's NBA players right now are pretty much locked down in their home for 2 weeks. What NBA player is going to step up and host a daily, 12 o'clock noon, 3 p.m. Eastern time workout where it's on Instagram Live and they do a home body weight workout exercise that me and Will can follow, and we can block that in our calendar and all of a sudden, you know, Anthony Davis or whoever these people are, you know, become the face of this, where they you know, offered some cool things and became innovative and became creative during this whole situation. So again, that's one silly idea maybe I had this weekend too, but those are the type of stuff that I think we want to be behind, and ideas we want to start crafting, because there's good that could come out of this, and I think there's creativity that's really gonna be awesome during this whole situation.
Yeah, if you're Anthony Davis, for example, I know like Devin Booker's been streaming himself play Call of Duty, but if you have like that daily appointment television that gives people something to look forward to, I think you could come out way ahead of this whole situation. And
NFL players too have constantly, we've talked about, they wear helmets, right? And that really hurts their appeal in terms of sponsorships. And, you know, everybody knows Tom Brady's face, but, you know, do you know DeAndre Hopkins' face? I don't, unless you're like a true NFL fan. Do you know those things? By the way,
if you're in Houston, Texas, if you're in Houston, Texas, you no longer know his face.
What? I mean, I guess he didn't like Bill O'Brien or vice versa, but
I thought he was on like an expiring deal. I didn't realize he was locked up till 2023.
Kyler Murray to DeAndre Hopkins with Fitzgerald in the slot, though. I like it.
Yeah, gonna sell some tickets.
You know, what NFL player, what MLB player is gonna really increase their Q rating in a huge way? Because, like you said, they're offering that daily appointment television, you know, for their fans, and people are enjoying it and kind of geeking out over it. So again, it's really not, the word is not capitalizing. The word is, how can we be creative, and how can we serve the fans and your audience as an outlet or escapism? And I think the athletes that take that seriously, the talent, I know there's been musicians that have done these little live, you know, concerts, which have been really cool to see. But yeah, I think, you know, there's going to be some happy hour situations through Google Hangouts, I'm sure, and concerts and everything like that's going to be kind of open to people doing. So anyways.
I mean, you could even have, like, if I watch like Cooking with AD, and Anthony Davis just makes lunch every day, or maybe he makes a cocktail. I mean, if you have a good personality, I'll check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the content that, if we don't have live sports for 2 months, like, we're going to start to look forward to the appointment viewing content that is that. Should LeBron's Taco Tuesdays be live streamed at the family dinner table? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, he already coined that idea, and I think he could easily bring the time. But that's about 1 hour of content worth a week. So
it's 1 hour that we need right now, I think, in this lack of live content.
He said he's looking for a wine drinking partner, so maybe he'll do something with that. Yeah, I think that's going to be the next wave. Other topics, I think we hit everything. Live events on streams, downtime, quarantine time, talent ideas. I guess the only other question is, the last one is, where's this going to go? Any predictions of when this kind of all goes back to normal or starts to even out a little bit?
Yeah, it's impossible to know. I mean, you hear estimates of 6 weeks all the way to 6 months or longer. You know, I think we're all hoping that we don't become Italy, because, you know, it's kind of trending that direction, but that's when the whole thing's on lockdown. You literally go to jail if you are seen not going to the grocery store or doctor or what have you. So as Americans, and as how we kind of freely go about our life, I get it. Like, let's stay out of bars, let's social distance, but hopefully we can still go to the local cafe and pick a sandwich up when we want to. But yeah, I think, you know, a huge thing for our industry is when Vegas shuts down. And I'm sure you agree, Will, like when casinos stop operating, that's when you know this is like a once in a lifetime situation that we're going through. You know, and I'll bring this up with you just because, like, I'm kind of thinking about it. Like, when it comes to the NBA, right? Like, I'm assuming the NBA can't restart until every player's tested.
Yeah.
Or everybody on the team is tested. And then you have
to have staff tested. I mean, it's a lot of people.
Yes, a lot. But let's say, best case scenario, Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell and the guy up in Detroit are the only people in the NBA with coronavirus. So I guess those guys are quarantined for 2 weeks. They get over it. They recover. Everybody else has a clean bill of health. Then technically you can restart the season, but with no fans. And then there's also issues with traveling and making sure those guys don't pick it up during. So I don't know. I feel like just the fact that you have to test every single NBA player and league personnel before you can start the season, I think from like a sports standpoint, we're looking at 2 months at least, right?
Well, even if they're all tested and they're all cleared, you still have to. How do you prevent anyone from getting it once you restart? Which is, no one has the answer to that right now.
And I think the only good news is I think in terms of the virus living on surfaces, and now I'm getting way out of my league, but no, whatever the term is, whether it's 3 days or a week or how long this virus can live on surfaces, the good news is I think if we all stay out of our offices and stay out of these buildings, then it will kind of self-kill itself, if that makes sense. So you can't pick it up 4 weeks from now because somebody coughed on, a surface, a month ago. So I don't know. Like I think at a certain point, the economy is going to have to start slowly opening back up. You can't just go 6 months in lockdown. I just don't think that's possible. So I think the good news is testing will start happening, and then there'll be some league or somebody that makes a stand and say, okay, we're going to try to start this thing back up. And then just like you saw the opposite effect when the NBA suspended their season, everybody followed suit.
Yeah.
I think in reverse fact, if the NBA says, okay, our players are tested, we're going to start practicing and we're going to reopen our season June 17th, whatever, then you'll start to see, I think, other events and other leagues say, okay, we're going to start now as well. So there'll be some domino effect whenever somebody feels confident enough that they can restart. But it's as always, it's an ongoing situation. So we'll see.
Unless your name is Cristiano Ronaldo and you can just buy an entire island for you and your family to hang out on. Maybe when he returns, that'll be the official end of everything.
Yeah.
How about that?
Here's what I'll say, though,
who do you contact to buy an island?
Well, it's an answer a question I have no answer for. But here's what I'll say too for us marketers and people that oversee brands. This is all going to open back up probably Q3, Q4 at the latest. And I think we'll find ourselves in a situation where like in 1 week, we'll have the NBA Finals, the MLB All-Star Game, Coachella, Stagecoach, like everything's going to launch like in a week. And brands are going to want to make up for these months that they weren't able to. I mean, listen, man, the March Madness lost like $1 billion in ad revenue. Like, that's not, it's really, really difficult. So I think these TV networks and brands are going to want to find a way by the end of the year to make up as much loss as possible. So once these events are cleared and the governments and the mayors say, okay, now we can get back to it, I think you're going to see this huge influx where, companies like STN, we have to be ready for that because it's going to be, I think we're going to be ringing out the hook of like, can you be here? Oh my God, we got to capitalize on this. Let's go. Let's move. What do we get? What's our plan? And like I said, you might have some of the biggest events, biggest concerts, biggest sporting events in the world all happen like in a 2-week time frame once everything starts back up. So that's one thing I think we can look forward to and be prepared for as people in this industry as well.
Yeah, baseball opening day, NBA Finals, Coachella, and the NFL home opener all within 3 days.
Tell you, man, it's all possible.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things where it's just like an asterisk year of this was the coronavirus year, and it's going to be But if everything gets cleared up, it'd be an incredible summer of events.
Yeah, that's the only thing you can hang your hat on is like it may be tough now for sports fans and music fans and live event people, but I think it's going to be one of the coolest Q3, Q4 holiday seasons we've ever seen in our lifetime because it's going to be just major event after major event, every day probably. So, but yeah, we want to make sure we came to you guys. We hope that this provided any type of normalcy or hopefully just got your mind thinking about ways you guys can attack your brands in your next couple of weeks as you guys are in meetings and you're trying to figure out what's next. And like I mentioned, I think, my mentality and our mentality as a company and what I'm hearing from a lot of my colleagues, which I think is smart, is, this is very odd and very unique and we've never been here before. So there's no playbook, but all we can do is look for the positive in the situation and glass half full mentality and what's next and how do we attack it and how do we, become better and more innovative and more creative because of it. So it'll be, I think those people that take it seriously will rise and take advantage of, again, advantage is the wrong word, but we're in this situation together and how do we serve our fans and serve our followers because of it? So,
yeah, perfectly said, I think.
All right, Will, Kelly, appreciate it. On Monday here, producer Will, of course. want to thank, we got to thank Dave Furker, even though he's not in the office. I mean, he had something to do with this mini episode.
He's on standby for technical support. So
we have a clean episode. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. We are always here. I'm always here. If you guys ever want to reach out, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, etc. You can follow us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube.
Yeah, everywhere. And if you have any topic ideas or anything you want to send in, please let us hear it. Yeah,
we actually have reached out to a lot of colleagues in the industry. We're going to do some mini podcasts, maybe not the full hour-long interviews, but some 20-minute blips over the next couple of weeks. I talked to Blake Lawrence, and him and I just kind of talking about the opportunity for athletes right now. As athletes, like, they never have time, and the biggest resource they have is time, and they never have time to do anything. And now they finally have time. Yeah. So what are they going to do with that? And how do they use that to their advantage in this unique situation? So looking forward to speak with him. We'll release that episode and going to have some conversations, just continue to, kind of drop some knowledge back and forth with each other on this whole situation. But thank you so much. Once again, the Business and Social Podcast powered by STN Digital. Producer Will, thanks so much. David Brickley, we will see you guys next time.